opportunity to do so here is quite the honor. So thanks everybody for joining in, especially if it's in your evening, you probably want to get to your homework and things like that. So this is a very important topic. I share this not only with RadTech students, students of any industry, and of course even with service members transitioning into the civilian world. And why I decided to hone in on this topic is because I've hired a lot of people over the last several years, and I've helped a lot of people grow within their career, within my own department and outside. And what I recognize is people really don't have a plan. And my goal here is to really emphasize the importance of having a plan in order to get ahead in your career. Now, I am not necessarily saying if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. I'm just saying if you don't have a plan, then you may not get where you want to be as quickly as you do. So when I know where I'm going from point A to point D, then I'm able to fill in the gaps, as opposed to just going with the flow and just landing wherever you land. There's nothing wrong with that, but if you're really trying to get ahead in a certain time frame, make a certain amount of money, then it's really important to strategically plan your career. So who am I on this? Well, I am Dr. Nicole Dhanraj, and I have been in radiology for about 23 years. My goodness, time sure flies. And I got my start in the military, actually. I had no clue of the military. I wanted to go to vet school and I was running out of money. I had just come, my parents dropped me off. I was originally from the Caribbean. They dropped me off and said, welcome to America, go forth and be thriving and flourish. And of course, trying to figure it out on my own and recognizing I was working 3 jobs, trying to go to school, and I just didn't have the money nor the large animal experience. And lo and behold, a friend suggested, hey, why don't you go check out the military? And that's what I did. But apparently I signed the dotted line. I had no clue of it. I was absolutely naive to the world. But fortunately, I did get radiology under my belt. And since I got out, so that was many moons ago, when I got out, again, very new to the world, what do I know about interviewing, different positions? So I was just kind of going on into the civilian world, only maybe about 2005, 2007, really recognizing I need to plan what I'm doing. I can't just go with the flow every year. And really making the commitment to understand what I wanted out of life. And I started working on my degrees. I had already gotten my master's in 2004. So right about, 2008, 9, I was thinking, okay, if I want to continue growing, I need to climb the ladder. What does it take to climb the ladder? And that's how I ended up starting an MBA and then quickly switching into a PhD. So over time, I have really honed in on my skills, I've honed in on the direction that I want to go. And here I am sharing my experience and giving you some insights to that. Now, as I say that, I will tell you, I was once this very naive, shy, introverted, put me in the background. I will come in, do a really, really good job. And here I am speaking in front of national audience. I am a subject matter expert in my field. I frequently write courses, do all sorts of stuff in my field. If you had asked me, this is where I would be in 20 years, I would have absolutely said, no, there's no way I can be the person that I am today. So especially for you students out there who feel like, oh goodness, I'm so unsure, I don't know, I'm still new. You would go through these growing stages until you recognize, wow, okay, now I'm able to handle this and be considered an expert. I just saw on one of these Facebook groups, it's like, well, somebody was asking, how do you know, at what point did you recognize that you are confident and you are, just knowledgeable in what you're doing? I think it was a Nuke MedTech, and all sorts of answers and people giving a lot of support. But I can't say that I am still 100% confident because there is so much more to learn. And, so it's always a continuous learning journey. That's the key there. And you will see as I go along, giving you a couple different strategies to maintain your game, be on top of your game, and really how to stand out from the crowd. So let's jump into this. If you can put in the chat for me there, what do you hope to gain out of this this presentation, I should say? Glad to see some of my students here. Awesome. What is it like one takeaway so that as I'm going along here, I can also integrate with what I'm saying to exactly what you're looking for? Let's see, I heard. So if you can use the chat there, if it's easy to get to. What is it that you're looking for? How to take the leap into management, how to get into an advanced modality, how to negotiate your salary, how to get from point A to point B. Yeah, exactly. What are you looking for? How to choose the appropriate job as a fresh grad. Sadie, that is such a powerful question. And I say that because about a year ago, I hired a new grad. Well, actually, my manager hired the new grad. And unfortunately, the position was not fitting. He was fresh out of school, took the night shift at a trauma 1 center, and struggled significantly to the point of losing his job. And it was later on he recognized, oh my gosh, I really needed experience. He had no experience other than his clinical side. And we did our best. We spent about 9 months training, and that's an awful long time to hold on to an employee. But you know, unfortunately, sometimes these things happen. You jump into a job without really knowing what that climate is like, what the workload is like, and really, especially if you're working by yourself as a fresh grad, you could end up being very stressed during your shift. So I definitely think that's important, looking at the appropriate job for you. How to take the leap in management, Samantha, my goodness. You know, leadership in radiology is not for the faint at heart. There's definitely some pathways that I can recommend as we go along. And you have to mentally prepare yourself to go into management these days because it is tough. And if you don't have that armor, meaning your tools and your skills, your abilities, your knowledge, you're going to be okay with it, but it could come with a level of stress. If you look around these days, healthcare is struggling in a number of ways, right? So especially on the leadership side, you have quite a bit in your hands, but I will certainly share how to make that transition into management a little bit more easier and of course set you up for success. Opportunities for RATTechs. Okay, I'll certainly provide that. Ooh, my professional worth. So I have become quite the master negotiator in the last several years. And you know, that in itself is another presentation, really how to understand what are not only what you're worth, but how to negotiate that. It's only in the last maybe, I would say 5 years or maybe 7 years or so that I have really stuck to my guns. This is what it's going to be as far as my compensation package. Now, and I would add a bit of this in the presentation today. The key thing here is not making it about you. It's making it about the organization. And then also really showing up in your profession. What are you doing? You have this association here that is awesome. So what other activities are you getting involved in? How do you set yourself apart from others? If you look at all my credentials, that's how I set myself apart. I want to make sure that when you put 2 directors side by side or a senior leader in an organization and you had to choose between me and them, I am giving you no choice but to choose within me because I am going to set myself apart from the competition. So there's a lot of conversation we can have on those things too. So if there's a burning question that I don't get to, definitely at the end, connect with me on LinkedIn. I'll be more than happy to continue the conversation. And I do quite often share a bit there too. Yes, and then somebody talk about, Marco, you talk about also getting into leadership. And the key thing there is finding a mentor and a coach, actually. So that mentor can give you some insight into what is it like to be a director. And then, of course, a coach can help guide you and strengthen your strengths, help improve your weaknesses so that you are success ready out in the field. So a little bit more about what I bring to you here is not only I started in the military, but I have about 20 plus years of leadership under my belt. I took the huge leap going from a technologist into a director role. And I know sometimes in the past when I'm mentoring others and I'm like, oh, I think the better route for you is lead tech, supervisor, manager, as opposed to taking the gigantic leap. And I will tell you, at least 5 out of 10 of my mentees will say, but Nicole, you took the giant leap. Why can I not do it? And there's a big difference, right? Depending on where you go, you need to fill in the blanks. If you go, let's say, from elementary level into university level, nobody's going to say that you can't do it, but you may have a lot of learning lessons to catch up. In my case, I recognized where I wanted to go and I was priming myself. I was studying, I was going to different conferences. So by the time that position came up, there was no doubt in my CEO's mind that I was the one who can fulfill that role. Not to mention, of course, I definitely applied for it and showed the value that I can bring. But if you want to take a giant leap from step A to step D, you need to make sure you prepare yourself. So those are the types of things that I'll be talking about today. So just as what you were telling me, why is this important to you? Because you're trying to break into industries, and sometimes we don't have the right preparation. I have a group of mentees that they're trying to switch from IT into HR or HR into healthcare, and they're just thinking that, oh, it's easy to switch. I can just leverage my experience. That is one part of it, but you, again, need to be prepared, understanding what is the requirements of that job and making sure that you can fill in those blanks. Some people feel that there's limited growth opportunities within radiology. I don't think that our supply and demand is calming down at any time soon. We have huge gaps in our supply of technologists. So right now, if you're looking for a job, you're in a pretty good spot, depending on your location as well. A key thing here too with limited growth opportunities is looking at the number of schools in the area. If you're in an area that there is, of 20, 50, whatever it is, then there's an ample pool out there. Oh, I'm getting a internet warning here. Hopefully, there we go. So you want to evaluate your surroundings as well. That could be definitely a cause that you feel like, gosh, it's taking a while to get a job. And in some cases, you may need to move, especially if you're getting started, or especially if you're into this higher level roles. Sometimes we just don't know how to sell ourselves or, create a resume. I remember my first bits of resumes, they were horrible. And then as I look back at it, I was like, oh my goodness, I can't believe that I had this resume out there. And then I hired help. And even when I hired help, this is to go into senior level positions, I really didn't know what to look for in hired help. So when you think you're not the best candidate, it may not be you and your experience, it really may be your resume. Your resume is a living document to reflect who you are. When I read your resume, I want to have no doubt that I am going to get my secretary to schedule an interview. Otherwise, it's a waste of my time. And it's unfortunate because so many people just send in slipshod resumes. It's terrible. It's appalling to see some of the resumes that are out there. Spend the time to create a robust resume. Leave no doubt that I need to get on the phone and call you right now because I just read your resume. And how do you leverage your current skills because you're a relatively new student? Well, that's another presentation. But there's a lot of different, resources out there of how to really develop a new resume, especially if this is your first career and you've had no previous experience. Your volunteer, the things that you're doing in class, the types of topics that you know, the equipment, your PAC system, your risk system, speak the language that the directors want to hear. And that way you can really capture their attention. And again, you're in a good spot with the supply shortages right now. So it's easier than before when you got to probably apply to 100 jobs before you get one interview here. And a lot of times, unfortunately, I hear people settling. You don't need to settle. There's ample opportunities out there for you to uplift yourself, know how to negotiate, get that resume in good tip-top shape, there's no reason to settle, especially now, again, with that supply crisis. And like the tech that I was telling you, with our final conversation, when I had to say, this is the last bit of training we're going to give, or we may need to consider termination, his immediate response was like, gosh, I'm such a hard worker. Is there any other job I can get into this hospital? Just deciding that he was going to quit X-ray. And it's not a matter that he should have quit X-ray. It just wasn't the right fit. It was too fast-paced. He just didn't have sufficient experience. So he did himself a disservice, and then we did himself a disservice too, because really we were just desperate for somebody, not really recognizing how can we best make sure that this person is set up for success. So sometimes people do feel that, gosh, I'm just not doing well, I need to switch industries. It may not just be the need to switch industries, it may just be that you are not the right fit for that particular organization. Then going through the whole job search market, it's overwhelming, it's tiring, it's exhausting, facing rejection. So again, if you get it right the first time, more than likely you're going to increase your chances of having that interview there. And then people are just not sure what's available. It's only when you get your foot in the door, then you're exposed to a lot of things that there is in our career to do. I keep getting exposed to different things year after year, like, wow, I didn't even know that this existed. So I'll share some of that in a bit for you. So what is this career strategic planning about? Well, once you get into a leadership role, you would recognize how important it is to have a strategy. Strategy is that long vision or that long-term goal. Where do you want to be? An organization wants to be the best in healthcare, or they want to make X number of dollars, or radiology wants to be the most innovative department in the organization. That's where we're going. Then you have tactics, all the different action plans that you're going to take in order to get that vision. So if I know in 5 years, I would like to be a director, then I need to start preparing now. What does it take to be a director? What are the hard skills and the soft skills that are required? And then within that 5 year, you start filling in the blanks, setting SMART goals, making sure that you can have some sort of vision board if you're into that, or just some sort of understanding of where it is that I want to go. Otherwise, year after year, you'll be in your job, you'll be doing the same thing. And then 10 years later, you're thinking, gosh, I've been doing this for the last 10 years. What is next for me? As opposed to if you planned it, then every year you can understand, where am I at right now to achieve this goal? Then maybe you're thinking, okay, I need to start making use of my organization's tuition plan. I need to start making time to take these classes. I need to start attending conferences. So that's what we talk about strategic planning. Looking at, I would use the word end lightly, but everything is a journey here. We don't really have an end point per se. But if you said it's 2028, where do you see yourself? And going through that journey, that is going to be important. So now you fill in the blanks accordingly. So let's look at this. What does a rocket ship and your career have in common? Well, you kind of heard me allude to this just now. Preparation. How many years does it take for research and development to make sure to get everything appropriate to prepare for that 10-second liftoff? The most important thing we want to see is that liftoff successfully, but it takes so many years to prepare. Now, the beauty that you have is that you don't need to take 5-10 years. You can actually do this in an accelerated portion, but the key here still is preparation. For you to be competitive, for you to get where you want to go sooner, you need to prepare. Now, we talk about a strategic plan. How formal should this plan be? It doesn't need to be super formal. If you're a very structured person, you can use things like Trello, Asana, all of these types of task management software, but it doesn't need to be very formal. It could be on a napkin, it could be on a piece of paper, on your phone, just having an idea. It's 2028. What am I doing? Where am I living? What type of job do I have? What am I doing on the weekends or my evenings? What does my family life look like? My social life? And you start asking these questions. And again, Before you can achieve those, you fill in the blanks. So what is what are the benefits of strategic planning? Why am I telling you you need to focus on this? Well, to make sure that you get the pay that you want. Again, too many times I have people telling me, oh my gosh, it's been 5 years and I've had the same salary, or I've had the same position, especially if it's a mentee in the VA system. Sometimes it takes a long time for them to move up in their bandwidth or their band. And as a result, there's a level of frustration. They don't feel like they're progressing, or other people are getting promoted and they are not. But it comes back to, what was the plan? How did you set yourself apart from the others? And then 2, at what point, when are you looking to retire? I said that I would start slowing down maybe in my mid-40s or so, because I think that I have done quite a bit. So as I start coming into that age range, then what am I going to do? What other opportunities are there? Because now I would like to give back to the community, to radiology, to help make it better for the new workforce and then our patients. So it's no longer about the money, but more so about giving back. So that way I start looking for those opportunities like teaching and, volunteering like this to provide more insight for others. But the major benefit we can say is really setting yourself up for the career that you want, as opposed to having the job and the career choose you. When you have a say and a choice, it makes life so much better. Here are some more benefits. Instead of just throwing darts at the wall and hoping one would stick, it is an opportunity to align your efforts. Use your resources appropriately. I just had a mentee come to me, or a client actually, and was asking for a resume review. And he had told me this was like, I think, his 20th job application. And when I looked at the job and I looked at his resume, they were so out of alignment. I would never have guessed that that was the role that he was trying to apply for. And I had to be real. I was like, well, look at the requirements from the job. Look at your resume. Tell me, where do you see that alignment? There really wasn't any. So he had devoted countless hours applying to all of these jobs, only to recognize that I don't have a good resume to begin with. And you may have heard of automatic tracking software. This is where the computer actually just scans your resume and spits out that quick, sorry to inform you, we're moving forward with other candidates. If you have a large organization that you're applying to, more than likely they're going to use an ATS. Why? Because when you have hundreds of applications coming in, nobody's going to sit there and read 100 and then sort them to the top 50 or the top 10 and then the top 3. We use what we call that ATS system. So there is an art to getting your resume through the ATS system. And as such, a key thing of that is really aligning what the job requirements are to what your resume have on it. So you want to make sure that if you're devoting the hours, you might as well make it getting some sort of return on your investment in those hours that you have put in. And then it's such a euphoric feeling when you get that interview, right? You may not have scored the job, but recognizing that, yes, somebody is interested in me. So again, when you have an idea of, okay, these are the top 5 organizations that I'm going to apply for. Why? Because they align to my values. They have the equipment, the shift, how far it is from my house, all of the pros and cons to that job. That way, again, you are being very intentional with the organization that you choose. And a lot of us, we want to maintain our financial stability. We don't want to go a long time without a job. You got your student loans, you got rent to pay, you want your spending money. So you want to get that job pretty quickly. So ideally, as a student, you should be doing this in your first year, really keeping your eyes on the prize out there. So how do we do this? Let me give you some ideas, and please, I'm monitoring the chat here. So if you have any questions as we go along, just let me know. So where do you start? The first thing I would say is, let's look at the job that you're looking for. An RT1, right? Entry-level rad tech, or let's say you've already been a year in the field and you're looking to get into CT or a lead. You look at the job that you're wanting. Then look at the requirements. Start talking to people. Hey, what do you like about your job? What are some of the skills, knowledge, and abilities that you would recommend somebody have before they get a job like yours. And when you have that information, then we start doing a self-inventory. And what does that mean? Let me look at myself and see what do I have currently and what is missing. So for example, if I recognize that I need to have emotional intelligence to deal with a high-performing team around me. I need conflict management skills if I'm a manager. So when I'm dealing with HR issues, I need a bachelor's degree in healthcare management. So when you identify what the job requires and what you have or don't have, then you can start filling in there. So you understand your strengths, your education, and your experience. With my team, I think to be a lead tech, you need to have at least 5 years experience in a trauma 1 hospital. A lead tech in an outpatient center is so different from a lead tech in a trauma 1 hospital. So if that's where you're going, if that's your ultimate goal to be at Harborview Hospital in Seattle because it's a top-notch trauma center, or Mayo Clinic somewhere, then you need to identify what it is they need as far as education, and you start working towards that, or what it is they need as far as experience, and again, filling in those blanks. So when you start really honing into these jobs, you can really identify all the skills that are needed. Now, you remember I was telling you, set yourself apart. So when you start evaluating the job description, and you do have to spend some time on this, right? It is, if you're going through the job process, this is not something you're going to come and spend 5 minutes at the end of the day and do. You have to have a strategy behind this. Because now, when I looked at my position and I'm recognizing that, gosh, I am planning and executing multi-million-dollar projects. My budget, one organization was 5 million, the other one was about 30 million, one was 50 million. I am handling all of these money on a daily basis as part of my job, or all of these high-level projects. Well, you know what? If I mess up something, it's going to be on me. So how do I make sure that I'm on top of my game? Well, I go and I start learning more about project management, or I'm leading large teams. Let me make sure about HR. So when I starting learning more about these, this is exactly what I can leverage so that when I am in an interview, this is where I'm going to say, okay, as a result of not only my experience, but my education, my certification, you are confident that what I can deliver for you. So that's, you start breaking down the job and recognizing what else can I do to stand out from the rest. And then also look at the number of people in that position. Do a quick Google search, go on Indeed now and look at health imaging directors, imaging managers, Rad Tech 1, whatever it is that you're looking for, sonographer, all of these positions. And you can see how many there are across the nation or in your state. I know a few months ago when I did this and I looked for jobs, there was about 35,000 RT jobs across the US. That's a ton of jobs. So like I said, you have, your pick right now. It really just checking the box to see if those jobs fulfill your demand. So how do we determine really where do we want to go? What do you dream of becoming? What do you want to be when you grow up? Well, listen, I've been in radiology for 20-something years, and I'm still trying to figure out, what do I want to be when I grow up? Why? Because I'm a lifelong learner, for one, and I'm a little bit of an octopus. I have an arm in various industries.
Octopussy, an octopussy.
Yes. In education and HR and project management and the veteran space. I'm an entrepreneur. So I love doing all of these things. So I don't necessarily have, again, a destination of where I want to go. I am just using the skills that I've acquired in the last 20 years and leveraging that to be in demand, I should say. So when you're starting right now, you need to dream big, right? What is it? Again, it's 2030. What are you doing? Where are you working? What does life look like? What type of car you're driving? What's your team look like? What's your bank account look like? Is your debt paid off? So you start dreaming. So then again, if you're dreaming of becoming that director, I dreamed of becoming a CEO. I dreamed of becoming a VP. And when I lost the interview to the VP, I was crushed. I was super crushed because that was one of my dream jobs. That was my dream job to get into C-suite. And I finally landed the organization where I wanted to be. I'll tell you a little bit more about that in a second. But dreaming, what is it that you're ultimately at the pinnacle of your career? Where would you like to be? And start thinking about that, because in a blink of an eye, 20 years, 30 years, it's going to go by super, super fast. So again, these are the questions here. What does your life look like? What skills are you using? Skills that I never even thought that I would use. Crucial conversations. I was the one that, oh my gosh, how am I going to have this conversation? I was hiring and firing very, very early in my career. As that early on director, I was telling you, from a tech to a director, I was hiring and firing double digits per month. That's how brutal the organization that I worked at. And guess what? I didn't know how to fire like this, especially when I've moved people across country with their families and then in 2 weeks to let them go. That actually, it grew me quite a bit, but recognizing this is not the type of leader that I wanted to be, nor this was type of organization that I wanted to align myself with, because I believe in giving people second and third chances, or at least giving them the opportunity to improve. There may be a limit that, this is all we can do. But at the end of the day, it's like, we never were able to give people the opportunity to improve. It's just what the CEO wanted then. So again, when you think about what type of organization do you want to work with? Who are the people around you? How are they supporting you? What does your leadership team look like? All of these things you need to think about. And as I mentioned to you with my tech, who was, an inappropriate hire, I should say, a key thing is really understanding a day in the life. What is it a day in the life of a manager or a director or a lead tech? Working in an outpatient environment, working night shift, weekend shift. All of these things you start asking those who have done it and get their input. Now, word of caution. Don't take their word as 100% what you're going to follow. That is their experience. And especially, I know for me, when, the director world is so small, if let's say Claire has put in her resume, and I noticed that she's worked at, let's say, Harborview or Swedish Medical, and I have a colleague there, I'm going to call up and say, hey, Catherine, do you know Claire? I noticed that she worked for you. And then Catherine is going to tell me either all the good stuff or all the bad stuff, right? But then at the end of the day, I want to make sure that I'm giving Claire the opportunity to start fresh. Her experience there under that team and that environment could be totally different. So use that same analogy with your own when you're capturing feedback from others. When they're telling you, oh, that is a terrible organization, that leader is so silly, you don't even want to be near them. Take it in and make your own decisions, because their experience doesn't mean it will be your experience. But what you want to make sure is that you are accepting of the workload, of the resources, just really understanding what is it that you're doing in the day of being a tech in these types of environments. So for example, I lived out in Guam several years ago, and I was the director there. Well, goodness, I didn't go for the job. I went for the island life. I grew up on the island, so I wanted to give my kids a taste of that. And if you had told me that this is what it's like working for a government facility on a remote island, I would have never really understood it until being in there. But even though it was like trying to get my footing, I grew like bamboo there. I gained so many skills. It was a tremendous opportunity. So even if you take a job and it's not what you want, think about what can you gain out of this? How is this going to help you move on into your next role? And this is what, especially when I'm teaching with different topics, people are like, well, oh, how come you know so much equipment, or how do you know all of this? It's because of my experience. I have worked in some very, very challenging organizations. And even though it was tough, it built the career that I have today. It built the skills and knowledge. So don't necessarily walk away from something thinking, oh, this was the worst job, it was terrible, because at any one point, you're going to have some gains out of it. So let's start planning here. What does your future look like? And again, you have to spend some time on this. Even if it's an hour, a month, or a week, what does that future look like? What does future state look like so that you can start filling in those blanks? Do you need to learn AI? Do you need to learn specific equipment? Is your industry growing? Or are jobs now threatened because of AI and all of these automation that we see with equipment? What are the trends? Where am I going to be when you think at the end of that trend or the middle of that trend? When we looked at maybe, I don't know, 5 years ago, and we saw the trend of the supply gap getting bigger and bigger and bigger, well, as an industry, we probably should have planned better, but now we didn't. So you can look at recognizing that in the last 10 years, this gap keeps getting bigger and bigger. So you can feel relatively safe that some robot is not going to take over your jobs. When AI came out several years ago in the radiology world, I started following AI, I think in 2015, 16, 17, thereabouts. And a huge thing was, oh yeah, you know what, radiologists are safe. AI is going to go after the tech assistants and then the techs and take away their jobs. But what did we see happen? A lot of the AI is geared towards radiologists with triaging, with reading. AI with deep learning, machine learning, they can read a chest x-ray and identify pneumonia or small nodules compared to a radiologist. So there's been a little bit of a flip. Now, granted, it's not good. We still need radiologists, but the key thing is that, I think in 2023, it's so important to say that I can't just look at one job in the future, but I need to have skills that can be translated into other industry. And this is why you look at those trends to understand, where is my profession heading? In terms of a tech, we can see this gap here. We're not going to fill this gap maybe until another, maybe, I don't know, 5, 10 years, because we can kind of mimic it based on what we see with nursing supply gaps. So you can feel relatively confident that you're going to have another job for the next at least 5 or 10 years. But what happens beyond that? What are you going to do to position yourself so that you're always going to have some income? That is why I became an octopus. God forbid, if I couldn't walk anymore, I can use my fingers teaching remotely. Or if I lost the ability to do X, then, or I got burnt out in a field, I can pivot into another field. Don't wait until now it's 2045 and you're trying to figure, how can I get into another industry? Continue building your skills. So as you look at future state and current state, don't just identify, well, this is the 5 skills I need and that's it. You continuously do that. So when you hit that future goal, you again look in the future and say, it's 2045, what next? 2045 is here, it's 2050, what next? And that way you're always going to be relevant, remain relevant. So when we look at, where you are and where you want to be, we talk about filling that gap. So you're really doing a gap analysis. What the job is requiring, what you're doing. Then if you want to be ahead of the game out of everybody, you start doing SWOT analysis, PESTLE analysis. What on earth are these things? Well, they're business terms to identify your strengths, weaknesses, opportunity, and threats. What are the threats to us right now? AI, robots, right? But it's still kind of far out there, so we don't have to worry about that. What is the opportunity? Huge shortages. I can pick any job wherever I want. I just need to make sure that I stand out from the crowd. PESTLE analysis. What is happening in the world today, in the economy, or globally and nationally, that is going to affect my job? When I was in Guam, this was of significant importance to us because we relied a lot on international labor. And a huge portion of our labor came from the Philippines and surrounding Asian countries. But when President Trump was in power then, he had put a temporary hold on H-1 visas, meaning that international labor was going to be paused. So we ended up with a huge shortage. There was no way that I can attract talent from mainland into Guam because we don't pay. It's a very poor hospital, so they don't pay anything. So I now, as a director, needed to be very creative in order to understand how am I going to attract candidates and or what services am I going to cut. So that took a lot of review of the market from a leadership perspective. But from a tech perspective, you're looking and seeing, wow, I can go get any job, or oh my goodness, California is getting expensive. You know, maybe I need to start thinking of moving. I want to start a family. I can't afford it here. Where else can I go with a high demand? So that's where the external market analysis becomes important for you. And, you know, when you're selecting a job, just as I said, it's not just a simple task, it's multiple levels deep. So very, very important for you to get into the nitty-gritty of, you know, exactly what you want. One of it being researching the geographic location. I live in Flagstaff, Arizona, and my friends always laugh at me because I'm the type, I will spin the globe, and wherever it lands, I will go, and I'll just make the best of it. So I was recently complaining about the snow. I had no idea that Flagstaff snow is like the 9th snowiest city in the US. I am a Caribbean, I don't do well with snow. So anyways, you're like, Nicole, did you not research the place before you go? No, I don't do that because I know I'm just going to make the best of it. I'm going for the experience. However, that strategy may not work for you. You may be looking for a certain lifestyle. You want to be near the young people, or you don't want to be near the partying crowd or the college crowd. You want to have ample schools that hit a certain rating to send your children. You want to make sure that you can afford a pretty decent lifestyle. So you may have certain criteria that you need to make sure that you research the location before you move. So as we fill in the gaps here, think about your age. I know a lot of times we talk about ageism for the older generation, but ageism also affects younger students coming in. I am definitely one not like this, but many of my colleagues are like, yeah, they're 18 or 21 or, you know, whatever, they're 25 and they're trying to get into a management position. And I'm like, and age really doesn't drive anything. For me, it's your experience, your education, and your ability, right? Your personality as well. So you have to keep that in mind because our industry is still very heavily biased. So again, how are you going to leverage everything else that you have around you? You didn't think planning your career was this in depth, right? Okay, so, and then, like I said, find mentors. Too many times I find students, they're afraid to go ask someone, can you be my mentor? I'm looking for some help in this industry. Can you help me? And you may be rejected because the person is busy or they don't answer. Maybe they don't hang out on the platform that you're choosing to select them from. So it may take some effort from you, but keep in mind that this is for your benefit. So chase after that. You know, I work about 18 hours a day in my director role, so sometimes it's difficult to get a hold of me. But at the same time, you continue badgering, well, you know, reaching out, and eventually I'll get to you. Or I may say, gosh, you know what, I have enough mentees right now. I'll certainly be willing to answer an email. So don't be bashful. Again, this is for your benefit. Start engaging in different associations, conferences, network. I have, again, just grown my network in the past several years just from networking. I had a recent mentee attend a conference for the first time with me, and he was like, Nicole, everywhere you go, people are like, hey, Nicole, how come is it that you're so popular? And I was like, can you believe just a few years ago I was attending this and nobody knew me? I was just in the back there, shy. I don't want to interact with anybody, but I knew if I wanted to become an expert in my field or to network and engage with others, I needed to start having conversations. And that's why you're here. So you can start having those conversations. And it's really important when you have those mentors, they can help make that transition easy especially if you're a little bit on the introvert side. Okay, so as we're coming to an end here, I want to make sure I have room for questions. Let's look at your resume. We were talking about resume just now. Most times you're going to need a resume for your position, unless you are going for a teaching position, then you'll get a CV. CV is several pages long, and it's important that you have publications, speaking, articles. So you need to start beefing that up, and you can start right now. But consider getting professional help, or you can do it on your own, but just using the job as your starting point to build that resume. If you do it yourself, don't be afraid to ask somebody who's in the industry, hey, can you look at this? I often review people. I don't like writing them. I would do a free review for people versus charging them for it. So it just really depends. And I can just give a quick several pointers. So you can reach out to different people and say, hey, can you take a look at this and let me know what you think? Research at ATS some more so that you have better insight on how to beat the ATS system. Especially as a student, start highlighting your awards, your community service, if you've done any previous jobs. One tech that I hired, pretty new graduate, she had worked in a casino. So she talked about customer service. That's what she leveraged on her resume. So you can do things that may be an unrelated industry, but you can certainly leverage the things that is going to be important in healthcare: care, commitment, showing up, punctuality, customer service, being able to multitask, high stress environment, all of those things we love to hear in an interview. And then education. Fortunately for all of you, you're still new, you're young students or young in your education journey here. But as you go along, it's 5 years down the road, don't rely on stuff you learned 5 years ago. Keep updating your education, keep renewed, keep fresh within your industry. All right, so lastly here, let me take a look at balancing. So a lot of times right now you have ample opportunity. I will definitely tell you there's a ton of opportunity, whether you go as a traveler or as a permanent tech. So you have what between now and 5 years is my estimate, but let's be conservative and say 3 years. You have quite a bit of opportunity you can leverage as a result of that supply and demand. Take advantage of it. You do have the cream of the crop where you can pick any job that you want. You just need to really know what is it that you want. Now, a lot of jobs are going to say, here is the money, come work for me. And you may be like, sure, show me the money and I will show up there tomorrow. However, make sure the organization aligns with you, because you can find yourself in a lot of toxic environments. And sometimes that's what happens. You end up with, you got lured with the money, the environment isn't good. So just be cautious of that. And how do you do so? Research in the organization, asking previous employees, finding people who were and say, hey, what do you like about working at Swedish Medical? What do you like working at Northern Arizona? What are some of the good things and some of the bad things? Don't engage in the gossip and total negativity about it, but just get an understanding what is working for them and what is not before you get enticed by the money. And when you're coming in, let's say you just graduated, you have 2 years of experience, you went and you get your bachelor's in management and you want to get into a role, but you really don't have a ton of experience. Don't just say, hey, I want to grow my career, I want to get money, because that is all on you, right? Don't tell the organization what you want. You really need to frame it. You can use the same words, but you're going to frame it. What can you do for that organization? And that's where research comes in. Well, I noticed that you're looking at opening a new hospital in the next 5 years. I am on this career path with my bachelor's, and I think that I can certainly offer you the support, the business acumen, so that I can help you with those plans to further expand your operation, something like that. So you see, I didn't say anything about me there. I said what I can do for them. So look at what their initiatives are, look at their reviews, and then hone in your education and your experience and talk about what you can bring for them. So a big thing for me is I am a non-traditionalist. So I am very innovative and creative, and I will drive using a lot of these AI tools, automation, efficiency with the industry to help reduce unnecessary costs and drive profits up. You know, every organization want to hear, how am I going to help them make money, right? I never said, show me the money. At the end of it, we're going to negotiate money. But for them to say, oh, you know what, somebody just go ahead and hire her right now, I tell them all that I can do for them. So as we wrap up here, what are your career options? I mentioned that I was an octopus. Well, you can be not only a tech, you can be an application specialist, you can be an author, you can be an educator, you can work from home, you can get into radiology billing, you can do management from afar, all sorts of stuff that you have to your ability. Right now, what do? I consult. So I consult with any organization that needs training, whether it is for their techs or for their leaders. I do applications training to keep my skills up. I teach not only in radiology, but I teach in other business courses. I've leveraged myself. I teach with international universities, local universities. I am a previous author. I do a lot of blog articles. I'm a member of the DEI committee, all within radiology. That's not even talking about my other arms there. So you have multiple career options, but the only way you find them is through your network, really developing those relationships to see what's out there. So several years ago, somebody says, hey, Nicole, would you be interested in writing a course for us? And I was like, me, a writer? Sure, let me take a look. One, yes, led to consistent income. Then, oh, you write so well. Can you write blogs for us? Would you like to be on the committee? So I no longer have to go source opportunities, opportunities source me. And that, my dear attendees, is where you want to be at any point in your life, where you want to be the ones to say, hey, somebody is asking you, are you looking for a job? We would love to have you at our organization, and have so many choices that now becomes your challenge of choosing which job you want. All right, everybody, that is it for our time tonight. There you are. You can connect with me, reach out to me on email, and I would leave the last few minutes for questions here. I knew I threw a lot at you there, but really to give you a solid understanding of the importance of planning your career.
That was great, Nicole. Thank you so much for all of your wisdom. Is there any questions at all? There's a lot of really good content there.
I've got one. You mentioned moving from different careers and moving to different places and things like that. How do you, when you start a new job, how do you explain your previous like short limits with different jobs? I mean, you don't want to say, hey, I wanted to look for other opportunities, so I left, because they're like, are you going to stay? So
yeah.
How do you do that?
So, actually, Carrie, that came up with my last job. So typically I stayed at an organization anywhere between 3 and 5 years. But so there are two different answers. If a leader is asking me that, it's a different answer than if a team is asking me. So in my last job, that was a concern. The team wanted somebody who was going to be there for them. They're very family oriented. Most of them have been there within double digits, 20 plus years, 15 plus years. So they wanted, that was it. Are you going to come here and then leave within a few years? And I said, to be honest, I'm not sure. The leader that I have become today, the professional I've become today, it's because of all the cumulative experiences that I have had. I don't know where you're going to be in 1 year or 2 years. Your family may take you somewhere else. Likewise, I can't say where I'll be in the next several years. My intent here is to come and help this department fulfill their goals. And you bet for whatever time that I have, I am going to do that. Right?
Excellent answer. Thank you.
Yeah. So, and that way you're connecting with them. And I remember this was actually a true feeling. Distinctly remember this around 2008 in my director role. I remember looking at one of my colleagues and I'm like, gosh, you know what? What if, people are going to say, yeah, you don't stick around long. And she looked at me and she says, Nicole, don't forget, what you could accomplish in 2 years, it may take others 5. So don't ever look at your time at each organization, look at the outcome and the results that you have driven. So that has stuck with me.
Thank you.
Oh, who is that? Samsung. What is your name there, sir? 34 years of experience.
My name is Jim. I've been a teacher as well as a general radiographer and looking for a teaching job again. And I like your points about publishing and stuff, which I've done. I'm working on a resume for a part-time teaching job here in Santa Cruz County.
Oh, and Jim, you said is your name? Sorry, my hair keeps coming in my face.
Jim, that's my name, yes.
All right, Jim. So definitely connect with me on LinkedIn because I can certainly connect you with others who are looking to hire right now. So for the fall term especially. And then I'm also a member of an online group that I moderate with professors. So jump in there and start getting some of those resources that we share free.
Great, thanks.
Can you please put the QR code back up? I didn't get it in.
Oh, sure. There we go.
And what does that QR code link to?
My contact information.
Ah, perfect.
My digital business card, pretty much.
Got it.
And that's another thing. Don't be afraid, like Jim says, hey, this is where I'm at. This is what I'm looking for. Don't be afraid to tell people what you're looking for, where you are, and let them put out the feelers for you. I just had a client come to me, a dissertation student. Hey, I've been stuck with my research. I put it out on my LinkedIn and she got everything that she needed. So don't be afraid to ask for help. That is, if I had to say one key lesson I've learned in my years of moving ahead or getting opportunities, is just reaching out for help. I will never hesitate to ask somebody for help.
Getting into a career in education, are there some areas that you know that are critical for education as far as masters or certain programs?
Yeah, so it depends. So a lot of programs, they do require you to have, I think, at least 18 credits in the field that you want to teach. So you may have, so for example, I got a doctorate in organizational management. I am teaching with a university, Abu Dhabi, but I can teach with, I do HR, organizational management, strategic, team dynamics, all sorts of topics that I'm qualified to teach with one university. But with this other university, I could probably only teach 3 because they're looking specific for either degree in it or credits. So what you will need to do is really look at the organization that you're hoping to teach with, and then start identifying, okay, what is it that they want? So another good example, and I'll come to the radiology stuff in a second. I am always interested in teaching business classes, and 9 out of 10 universities, they want an MBA. Again, I have some core courses towards an MBA, but not an MBA. And I've thought about, well, maybe I should just go back for the MBA. It's just a few more courses so that I can teach these very easily. But at the end of the day, it's like, I think I have enough that I can still leverage. So it really depends on the university. And again, those connections. I've had one university president reached out to me and say, hey, Nicole, there's a job in this. Are you interested? So that's, again, where your interaction on social media platforms, your network is going to help connect you with the key people that are hiring too. So in some cases, they're like, you know what, we can make an exception for you. You may find yourself in that. As far as radiology, it's the experience and the education that certainly helps. There's a lot of openings right now, depending again on the state. I'm not 100% sure with California, but for the bachelor's program, definitely. And I don't see too many things for healthcare management in the master's, just because my degree isn't in management. So I don't typically teach in those programs. I teach in general business, entrepreneurship, but it's the same leadership type classes. It's a bit of a long answer there, but I guess, you know, the usual answer depends on the organization that you're looking for.
Are you teaching internationally remote? Is that with remote
Yeah.
classes?
Mhm.
Oh, interesting. So you reached out to the universities in these international locations?
No, actually, it was a connection. Somebody posted it in one of these groups that I belong to. And I was like, oh, you know, because I had that warm connection, it wasn't a person that I didn't know. I said, hey, can you make the introduction for me? And within a week, I had the interview. And after the interview, they were like, not even 2 days later, hey, we absolutely love your teaching style. It was a presentation that I had to do. And I was onboarded. And you know what? I was squealing in delight because ever since I got into the military, I love languages. I wanted to work military intelligence, speaking Arabic. And my dream one day was to work in Saudi Arabia, Dubai. But then I went there and I was like, oh, I don't really want to work on site, but I would love to engage with that culture. So it was actually like a dream job for me. And it's so unique because I'm only allowed to teach female students. So just learning everything, the interview, I had to teach on a subject. So I had to go do my research specific for these audiences. So it's definitely quite the experience. So.
Interesting.
I just, you know, I'll steal one more minute here. I know at the beginning somebody mentioned, what am I worth? A lot of that is going to be dependent on your area. So if you look up salary.com, I believe it is, indeed, there are some resources, Monster, the ASRT has a salary survey. So you can use that information to understand what is a good negotiating point for you. You can also potentially some jobs, you know, they'll post exactly what the salary range is, or you can reach out to HR and ask, what is the salary range for this position? So that way, you now, do I even continue going ahead and applying for it? But salary may not be the only thing that's driving you. It may be experience. So in some cases, your worth may not really align with the job because the experience or the education is more valuable to you. Some people, the benefits, the compensation package. I had one offer from Jamaica, another dream job, and I left it. I did not take it, but it was a dream job such that it was at the university level. I leveraged my skills. I did not have any experience in reproductive health, but I leveraged my skills to get into that industry. But the compensation package was housing, tuition, books and professional development and something else. And the only reason I didn't take it because my kids were becoming, you know, of graduating age and we needed to be stateside so that they can have ample opportunity. But what the compensation package is that I drove my income down and I increased all my benefits to have the tax advantage. So you can do that too. It doesn't always have to be about the money, but what is the benefits? For me, again, adding to my repertoire, reproductive health, university setting, sure, I'll take a lower paying job, but if I'm getting some significant benefits with it as well. Claire, are there multiple opportunities for rad techs in the military? Oh my goodness, yes, multiple opportunities. And you know what the beauty about that is too? You get to go international. You're a federal employee. The pros and cons, GS, everybody loves to be in the GS system because it's stability. When you get tired of Germany and you want to go to Italy, there's the option, or if you want to come back stateside. Now, the downside is GS jobs typically pay less than civilian jobs. And I would say, especially if you go into a private practice, anywhere between a good 20, maybe a good 15 to 30% less. So for example, a CT tech right now would make about 60,000 as a GS9 in the VA system. CT tech with that level of experience, 60,000, you'll probably make at least 80 something thousand in civilian, and probably in California, even more. So again, it really depends on what you want out of the job. If you're looking for long-term stability, ability to go anywhere really in the world with that job, then definitely a GS position is a good option. Oh, and what branch? Typically, you'll find Army and what is that one? Army bases, Air Force, not so much. They do have a couple techs there, but any base that has a hospital or a clinic, and you can go on to usajobs.gov and you'd be able to see all the jobs that they have available. If you're looking for a lead position, I got somebody in San Francisco that's been behind me to come to their team, so I can certainly put you in that group there as well. So thank you for your kind comments. And I know I've taken up some more of your time. You can see that I'm passionate about this. I can talk for hours on this topic, but if you want more information, just check me out on LinkedIn or my email, and I would be happy to see what I can do for you. Okay.
Well, this has been